Good afternoon, viewers. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Serbian American Leadership Conference Fireside Chat. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, the audience, for tuning in and joining us for this special occasion. As you may know, SALC will be presenting a number of Fireside Chats in the weeks to come. Today, we have the distinct honor and privilege of speaking with President of the Republic of Srpska, Željka Cvijanović. I will be conducting the interview together with Aleksandar Đuričić, President of the Serbian American Leadership Conference. Without further delay, let me introduce you to Alex. Alex?
Thank you, Dr. Mikašinović, and thank you, President Cvijanović, for taking the time to be with us. It is a tremendous honor to have both of you here with SALC. I would also like to thank all of our viewers in America and abroad, specifically our friends today from the American Jewish Committee and the Hellenic American Leadership Conference, who serve as the standard of what the Serbian American Leadership Conference one day hopes to become. We pray that everyone is staying safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam President, first we would like to convey our best wishes and solidarity with the people of the Republic of Srpska during this difficult time. We stand with you. As you know,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. As you know, at the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we created the SALC Leadership Series, during which we have thus far hosted Ambassador Godfrey, Ambassador Matković, and Crown Prince Alexander II of Serbia. Having you here with us today, as today's distinguished guest, raises our credibility and proves that we are determined to succeed in our objectives. These objectives are to inspire further generations of Serbian Americans to become civically engaged and to be proud of their Serbian heritage, and with that, to unify and to exemplify how Serbs should support each other. While our objectives are focused on the Serbian American community and the United States of America, our strength and organization consequently helps our brethren in Serbia and the Republic of Srpska. Like Serbia, we consider Republic of Srpska our homeland and the homeland of our ancestors. Therefore, it is important that we, as the Serbian American community, carry out our responsibility in raising awareness about the importance of the Dayton Agreement to our leaders and government officials, and to explain why those terms and obligations outlined in the Dayton Agreement are critical to peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the region. We will work equally to defend the civil and human rights of the Serbian people in the Republic of Srpska and Serbia, while also not hesitating to defend the rights of all the other ethnic groups in the region if they are being infringed upon. On a personal note, while I do have extended family that has settled in the Republic of Srpska, I do not have any specific ties. However, I am from a village in Croatia called Strmen, just upstream the Sava River from Jasenovac and Donja Gradina. When visiting the land my ancestors lived on for centuries, I make regular trips across the Una River into the Republic of Srpska, particularly Kostajnica and Kozarska Dubica. Upon entering, I'm overcome by feelings of safety, peace, and homeliness. I urge all Serbian Americans who have not yet had the pleasure of doing so to visit the Republic of Srpska and to experience the similar feeling of being at home. The same feeling I experienced in Serbia because, as I mentioned, both lands are our homelands and equally vital to the Serbian people and Serbian culture. Therefore, I personally look forward to the discussion very much. Dr. Mikašinović?
Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself to you. My name is Branko Mikašinović. Most recently, I worked as a journalist for Voice of America, Serbian service for many years. And now I'm very happy to be able to do the interview with Madam President. It is my great pleasure to present to you the President of the Republic of Srpska, Željka Cvijanović. And thank you so much for accepting to do this interview. I would like to start today's fireside chat by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get to the position of President of the Republic of Srpska. Was it your dream as a young girl to become president one day?
Okay, thank you so much for the nice words, and thank you for this great introduction, and thank you for this great opportunity. It's really a pleasure for me. And speaking about dreams, and becoming president, I can say that I never had such ambitions or such plans or such dreams, to be honest, But what I can say about myself is that I have always been interested in politics, and especially after the Bosnian War, I thought it would be very good actually for as many young people as possible to be included in political processes in our country. And probably that was the reason why I also consider myself as someone who could be able to contribute to what we needed to do during that post-war time. But I have to be honest and say that actually my access to politics was not direct, First, I started working with the European Union Monitoring Mission, which acted in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I worked there as a local staff. So that was a great opportunity for me actually to deal with some concrete and tangible issues such as post-war recovery, dealing with political, humanitarian, economic, social and other processes here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I stayed there for 11 years. And then in 2006, when Mr. Dodik became a prime minister for the second time, I was actually offered to join his team. This is something I gladly accepted, of course. In the beginning, I worked there as an advisor for international cooperation and European integration. After some time, I was promoted to the position of chief of staff in his cabinet in the government. And then after some time, several years, I became Minister for Economic Relations and Regional Cooperation. So I held that position for about 2 years. After that, I was appointed Prime Minister, and I was in office for almost 6 years. After that, we had general elections in 2018. And I ran for president, I won the elections, and this is where I am now. So that was my, I would say, political path to this position of President of Republic of Srpska, but I have to say that I'm very proud of this position. I know how important it is. I know how important it is for our people, for our republic, to have all the institutions acting properly, and I'm trying to give my contribution to the efforts and activities of the government, of the National Assembly, trying to help whenever possible, and I'm really very pleased for this opportunity actually to discuss such important issues for Republika Srpska, but also for our people who live in the US. You know myself, Branko, and you know that I have tried for so many years actually to have links with our diaspora and to keep really good contacts there. So as a result of that, I can say that we established many institutional bridges like between our government and our people abroad.
What is the current situation in the Republic of Srpska as regarding the coronavirus crisis, and what measures has the government taken to address that issue?
So we are struggling like all other countries at this moment, but I would say that we managed somehow to keep things under control. And it has been 8 weeks now since we detected first case of infection. And of course, it meant a lot of activities of our health system, of our institutions, of our government, of our institutions, actually. I would say that I'm happy with the effects of the measures actually that our government has taken in these past weeks, or 2 or 3 months, because we still can say that we keep things under control. And of course, that's one aspect, of this tragical story. It is how to protect human lives, actually how to deal with all those who are serious patients, how to manage all these activities within our health system. But there is another part of this story. It is actually what the government can do in order to save economy, and what are the activities are now important actually to keep the economy running. So this is the battle which we actually keep on different fronts, as is the case with all other countries. But as compared to some other countries, I have to say that I'm very proud that the Republic of Srpska was the first one in the region to introduce very serious and strict measures. And thanks to the discipline of our people, of our population, and also thanks to the readiness of our health system, I can say that we can be happy with what we have now, hoping that it's not going to become worse.
How would you assess the economic situation during the period leading to and after COVID-19 crisis? And do you anticipate there being an enduring impact?
Yes, I mean, we had a rather solid situation, economic situation prior to this COVID-19 crisis, and our economic growth rate was 3.7%, and we had pretty good prospects for the future. But then this happened, and of course, it's going to have a lot of consequences. It's going to have a lot of bad impact on our economy, and we know for sure that this is something which is not going to just disappear overnight. This is something which needs to be healed and cured in the coming months, maybe even in the coming years. But as I said, I'm very proud of the measures actually that our government introduced in order to help our economic sector. Believe it or not, but we were also the first ones in our region to start implementing such measures, as one of the first measures was actually to establish a 3-month moratorium on loan payments, and this is agreement that the government made with our banks. There was another aspect of this support. Actually, the government decided to cover salaries or minimum wages and also contributions, pension and health contributions for our workers in private sector, just to help their employers actually to keep business operations, jobs, and of course these workers. We also postponed deadlines for paying taxes and some other activities actually which the government did in the very beginning in order just to show our people, our workers actually that they can count on the government and that we are together in this. I mean, let's call it evil, because it is really a tragical situation. So the situation was okay before that. We were hoping actually to continue and to reach better and better results, but then this COVID situation happened, and now we have to start some activities from the very beginning. Of course, many businesses are really in bad situation, and that's why it was so important for the government to establish and introduce all these measures. Many businesses have completely closed down in the meantime, but we are trying to revive them through our governmental measures.
Now, how have the two entities, Republic of Srpska and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, cooperated in matters deliberated in joint institutions?
There is a level of cooperation, of course, between the two entities, the Republic of Srpska and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We introduced similar measures, but these measures were not identical. We recently had some complaints about their decision actually to lift some of the restrictions pretty soon. So we expected them actually to coordinate and harmonize some of these activities together with us in Republika Srpska, and now we are afraid that it might have bad consequences in the future. But speaking about the Bosnia level, which means the level of joint institutions at Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a body which is a coordination body. But mainly they are dealing with this humanitarian aid that we receive from abroad and things like that. But speaking about two entities, we have to be aware that actually these two entities are responsible for health system. They are responsible for civil protection, and this is something which is really something which is needed. There, we are also responsible for many other activities, which are now being implemented here in Republika Srpska. So basically, this is something where the two entities operate in a way together, in a way, through some coordination. But in essence, we are doing this alone.
What is the history and the role of the Republic of Srpska's Office for Cooperation, Trade and Investments here in Washington, D.C.?
We have, as Republika Srpska, we have around 10 representation offices abroad. One of these is actually our DC office, and I'm very happy that we have it there. Because the main purpose of this representation office is actually to promote the interests of Republika Srpska, also to help us establish economic links with the countries where these offices operate. But one of the very important roles which they have is actually to provide this institutional link between the government of Republika Srpska and our diaspora, our people who live abroad. And I would say that our office in Washington, D.C. is very successful in this. And I also have to say that speaking about links with our people who live abroad, actually I have to say that we very much rely on the support which we get from the church, and mainly many of the activities are channeled actually through this joint engagement of our offices, the church, and the government of Republika Srpska.
And finally, what is the relations between Republic of Srpska and diaspora, Serbian diaspora in the United States, and what are the goals for the future?
As I already mentioned, we try to reach out for our diaspora, and our office in Washington, D.C. is very helpful in this. This is the way how we actually can communicate with people, how we can actually provide this institutional link and also convince them in a way that we need to act in many respects together. My personal approach is, and my political approach is actually that every person that we have somewhere abroad is a part of our community, and we need to know how we can help each other. That's why it's very important actually that they are interested in political and economic processes that we have in Republic of Srpska, but also in the whole region here. I think that they can be engaged in different ways. For instance, in terms of political processes, they can be present either as voters or someone who would help us establish or develop better links with the communities, with the countries where they live. Also, in terms of economy, they can start some businesses here, or they can promote our business opportunities in the countries where they live, specifically here in the U.S. So there are really many, many ways how we can communicate and how we can be together, how we can act together, and how we can show that there is something which is called real unison.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alex, do you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Mikašinović. Thank you again, Madam President, for your time. I think it's a good, that last question is kind of a good correlation into the themes that I kind of want to talk about, which are unifying factors, themes that will connect not only the Serbian people in Serbia and Republika Srpska, but also the Serbian people living in the United States and abroad, and obviously the United States of America and the government officials and the leadership. Recently we commemorated, sadly, the 75 years of the escape from the Jasenovac concentration camp. Tragic, and that period in our history has been one that hasn't been spoken about enough. So one of the things that I noticed, and the President Vučić in Sremska Mitrovica, and you and President Dodik in Donja Gradina got together, and sadly because of COVID-19 we weren't able to do it unified, but you got together and you held a commemoration and talked about the importance of commemorating Jasenovac and the concentration camp system. Why does the government of Republika Srpska see this as an important tragedy to commemorate, and also why is it important to commemorate alongside Serbia?
Yes, and you know that our commemoration in Donja Gradina is a very important event, and it always takes place on the first Sunday following Orthodox Easter. So it is established as a date where we have this commemoration. It is an opportunity to pay respect to all these innocent victims of the Jasenovac concentration camp. And you know that we speak about 700,000 people there, majority of whom were the Serbs, about 500,000 people. And of course, they deserve actually this attention. But what is also very important to say here is that Republika Srpska and Serbia established a calendar of important days from our history, which we need to mark together. So this is one of these dates, definitely, and that's why we organize it together. Very often we have our friends from Jewish community, from Roma community. Very often in regular times, not in these COVID times, we have our friends who come from Israel, or we have our friends who are from American Jewish community who come also to pay respect to the victims. And this is a ceremony and commemoration which actually shows us that we need to stick together, that we need to not only pay respect to the victims, but also to pledge ourselves that something like this will never and should never happen anywhere on this planet, which is our joint planet and place where we live together. But it is important that our people, wherever they live, understand that the Republika Srpska and Serbia commemorate such important things together, because we have the same history, we are the same people, we share the same values, and we know when we stick together that we are stronger. And also there is another aspect of this. It is actually that this this tragical place, deserves much more international attention. This is the way actually to attract more international attention. That's why we have such close cooperation with our people, with our friends from the State of Israel. That's why we have so many links, and we also have good cooperation with our friends from the American Jewish community. We try actually to show that we are together, and by being together, we can actually put this on the international map of important events, and we are managing now. But you would remember that during the era or communist era, that this place and many other places like this were not given enough attention at that time, probably because of the way and manners how we organized our lives in that time. But definitely such a big tragedy and so many lost lives, and the way how they were killed there, and the way, like, you know, they were tortured there, and all these bad things that happened there deserve international attention, and I think that we are on a good path actually to really achieve it.
I think that's critically important. You know, my grandfather was a survivor of the Jasenovac concentration camp. He spent 2 weeks in the camp itself, and ended up being released by the Nazis, who were disgusted by some of the crimes that were being committed. And he's still alive to this day, but he is partly afraid to speak up. And so one of the things I noticed was the Republic of Srpska is looking at building the Memorial Center in Donja Gradina. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that Memorial Center and how Serbian Republic of Srpska are doing that to help raise the level of global awareness of Jasenovac and the system?
So there is an idea, and we presented that already, that we are going to build a big memorial park and big memorial center there. And it was announced as a joint activity of Serbia and Republic of Srpska. And I really hope that this is going to be materialized in the years to come. Of course, it's going to be something important. And, you know, when you deal with something which is so important and with so many symbolism in it, you know, you have to be careful and cautious approaching such an important issue. So that's why we are still thinking about how it's going to look like. We are going to see the proposals that we are going to get on how it's going to be constructed, and, you know, all these technical aspects also. But, you know, speaking about this site, you have to somehow put together so many pieces so that you really send a good message across, so that everybody understands what it stands for, that everybody understands actually the size of this tragedy there, that everybody understands the darkness of the ideology that actually was behind of all these, you know, dead people there. So it is a very sensitive issue, but I'm very happy to know that there is this idea that we work together, both governments of the Republika Srpska and Serbia, actually to materialize this idea.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's important. It's not, these efforts are not directed to hate or cause tension. It's that through a recognition of tragedies in the past, that we can move forward and learn from those lessons so that they never happen again in the region. You know, Serbs tend to be united in tragedy. Those are, when we have difficult times to find unity, we find unity in tragedy. Another situation that we obviously went through in the 90s was the expulsion of 250,000 Serbs from Croatia. And the Republic of Srpska and Serbia, in another effort showing their leadership in recognizing and raising global awareness, have begun to commemorate Operation Storm. Is the idea behind the commemoration of Operation Storm similar to the idea behind commemorating Jasenovac?
Yes, but you would also remember that President Dodik and President Vučić decided, as I mentioned several years ago, that we have this calendar of the days that are important days from our history, and definitely the ethnic cleansing that happened in Croatia, and so many Serbs that were expelled, you know, from there, so many Serbs that found their new home in Serbia, Republika Srpska. That is something which, again, keeps us together. And we decided actually to mark this day, also to pay respect to all those who were killed, you know, in this terrible operation, military operation, but also to show that we are together with those who came from Croatia and who live now in Republika Srpska, who live now in Serbia, that we represent one body, one mind, that we are together and that we are going to stay together. And so many messages were sent actually during previous years exactly about this unity and how important it is that we take care about each other, that we rely on each other, that we know that we can live together in the future, despite the fact that we had such bad memories or such bad history behind us. So I'm very proud of these activities of the two governments, and also initiative that were launched by President Vučić and President Dodik at that time, because it shows that we can act together, that we can be together, that we can be together when it comes to good times, also that we can be together when it comes to bad times. And this is a great value of any nation.
Absolutely. And kind of going off of that question, there is a sense of unity, especially I think in the Serbian American community, that Serbs are galvanizing. They're starting to become stronger and more unified. And so you've kind of touched upon it with President Dodik and President Vučić, and you being a part in that. But what has else contributed to being a catalyst? I've heard both President Vučić and President Dodik and yourself mention these are the best relations between Serbia and the Republic of Srpska in history. Is it a matter of geopolitical? Is it a matter of the people that are there? Is it just something that is changed in the Serbian mindset and identity?
I would say that our awareness that we need each other is crucial in this. But also when you have big processes or big ideas, it is always up to people. You have to have personalities who they recognize the importance of something, and then they promote that something. But I would say our awareness that we need each other, that we need to rely on each other, and that we belong to each other. That's such a great feeling, I can tell you. And this is something which people in Republika Srpska, but I know in Serbia also feel. There are so many events that actually keep us together. There are so many activities of our governments that are implemented together. There is this feeling of belonging to each other, which is very important, and it can be a kind of, engine for many other processes. So I would really say that our relations are best ever. Excellent, definitely, in terms of political understanding, in terms of economic cooperation, in terms of support that we receive from Serbia. And I have to mention it here that the government of Serbia invested a lot of money actually trying to help and implement very important projects in all our municipalities or local communities. All these are signs of this feeling that we belong to each other, that we want to take care about each other, that we want to be together in good and bad times, as I said.
It's great to hear for the Serbs in America, because it motivates us, energizes us to know that we're cooperating, and if our effort continues, that we can help cooperate with you and help further all of our interests. You've touched upon the calendar of events and those kinds of things. What will be the future relationship between Serbia and Republika Srpska look like? Are there any specific plans, economic, apart from these calendar events and commemorations, that Serbia and Republika Srpska kind of have that they're thinking about currently?
I would say that our specific, not very specific plan is something which is really our plan is to achieve as much integration as possible. And what we are doing in economic terms, this is something really which would help our economies act together and be complementary to each other. And also we can always rely on Serbia. That's very good feeling, and it's very important for the people in Republika Srpska that they know whatever the crisis that there is Serbia to help, whatever the problem there is Serbia to help. At the same time, Serbia is doing that in a very clever and nice way, so that people love it. They love to receive their support. They love to know that there is someone who thinks about us. They love this feeling of unity, and I can really say that this is something which has been so dominant in the recent years. And then again, that somehow puts me back to that previous question. I think it's up to personalities actually to promote some idea, definitely yes, but also the readiness of people to grab that as a big chance or something which is so important in their lives, in their biological but also in their political lives. This is something which is really precious.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And kind of building upon that, obviously SALC is a Serbian American organization, and as I mentioned in the introduction, our focus is on that. And so we want to see how can we help Republika Srpska, Serbia, the United States of America, and the Serbian American community come together and work together. And so one of the questions we actually had from a viewer was, there's a lot of interest, whether it be in Serbia or Republika Srpska, in us in America, the Serbs living in America, coming to there, bringing our knowledge, bringing our experience, and helping to improve the lives of the Serbs living over there and both ourselves. So one question was, what are the steps for an American company that is Serbian-owned in America to evaluate coming into the Republic of Srpska to, for example, open an office, hire professionals? How can we start that discussion of facilitating economic prosperity and progress in our homelands?
Yeah, there's a very simple procedure, I would say, and also Republika Srpska was the leader, I would say, in establishing a good methodology of establishing new companies. So, for instance, when it comes to business registration, it's enough just to spend 3 days. So I would say it takes 3 days to establish a company. There is a specific place, and it is one-stop shop. Activity. This second stage that we implemented recently is actually that you can do it online. You can register your company, do the payments, which is about 150 convertible marks or 75 euros. So very inexpensive as compared to some previous times. And then after 3 days, you just receive your certificate of registration and you can start business, And when you compare the conditions, business conditions here in Republika Srpska, you would see that it is very competitive as compared to many other places there. And I'm sure that every person who actually starts such a business here would be very happy with what they can see here. I would just mention to you that we have a big American company, NCR, operating in Banja Luka, not only in Serbia, not only in Belgrade, And actually they told me in the beginning that they were very happy with the way how they were accepted here. They were very happy with the way, with the professional way how they were treated here. And also they received some subsidies, from the government because they actually initiated some programs that fall within this scope of subsidies, So there are good experiences here, and I would encourage our people actually to think about establishing their businesses here or starting some business operations here because it is favorable. I know that geographically speaking, we are far away. But mentally speaking and in any other respect, we are very close. And I always try to encourage my people to do that, but also to be part of our political processes, to be part of our economic processes, to understand actually that we need every single person who lives now, whether in the US or any European country, for instance.
Absolutely. And actually, when we've met SALC, when we've met with government officials, State Department, congressmen, and senators, one of our focal points has been, let's help facilitate these economic possibilities between the three territories. And so, part of that, has been when we go to Congress and we meet with these officials, and apart from helping to facilitate, we highlight the similar values that our people, the American people and the Serbian people have together, the foundation that we're built on, respect for human rights, respect for freedom, respect for liberty. And so I'm curious, what kind of relations and cooperation do you personally hope to facilitate between Republika Srpska, Serbia, US, and the Serbian American community?
I think it's very important to have such organizations, for instance, and that you can help us develop political understanding between Republika Srpska and Serbia on one side and the US on the other side. Sadly, but truly, our political understanding is not at a very high level, I would say, and it needs working on. So I think that our people who live there, who are organized within different organizations, who have access to institutions or who have access to various civil initiatives or whatever initiatives, that they can really help us in promoting our cooperation, in upgrading our cooperation, in showing actually that we have the same goals in many aspects, and that we can really cooperate in much better way than was the case before.
I mean, that's great to hear, because as SALC, as an organization, that's what we're really trying to do. I was actually invited on Thursday to do an interview with the Balkan Insider, which is a series of discussions similar to these, Fireside Chat, where they're bringing representatives from all the ethnic groups in the region, in the Balkans, to kind of talk about their organizations. And I think it was very important for us to kind of step up. Yes, we're the new kid on the block, and yes, we have a lot to learn. But I think we're dedicated and we are motivated, because for far too long our community has been without a voice in Washington. It's been without representatives. It's been without the link from Serbia and Republic of Srpska to the people in the U.S. And so we want to help to do that. And as you've mentioned, hopefully, is SALC as an organization really important to be able to do that? You had kind of touched upon it, but I'm wondering if you can expound on that a little bit.
I think that it can be very important, actually, that you are really someone who can, in a way, be a bridge between us and, for instance, U.S. administration or U.S. initiatives. Sometimes we just look at these things in a way that, okay, it's very important that we have contacts with our people who live abroad. But very often we neglect the fact that actually that our people who live abroad have access to various institutions, various events, where they can really communicate these messages quite well and quite fast, So that's why I think that it's very important for us to know that you exist, that you are willing to help, that you are knowledgeable, that you are active. So it's important to rely on what you can actually help us deal with in terms of these better links and establishing better links. So I think that there is a quite big space, for you to act in this. Sometimes it's very difficult for the governments to communicate together or to send their messages. Sometimes something which is reported in newspapers can be interpreted or misinterpreted in various ways. Sometimes it's necessary really to have someone who can explain properly the messages that come, for instance, from the Republic of Srpska, from Serbia, because quite often they are misinterpreted. Quite often we are, put in some blocks where we do not belong, and sometimes we are portrayed in a way that is not acceptable, So I think there is a great potential in such organizations, in such activism, I would say, actually, in helping us say who we are, what we stand for, what we want to achieve, helping us remove all these bad stereotypes, and many other things. But of course, one important aspect is actually how to promote business opportunities, how to attract people, to come and think about this idea, actually to start their business activities in Republic of Srpska or Serbia. But so there are so many ways, and I think it's crucial that we keep this link, and that we can really rely on you, and that that in our governments and in people here, you also have very good interlocutors.
Thank you for reiterating that fact. As I mentioned in the introduction, your support gives us energy. It shows that our efforts will not be fruitless, that something can come out of it, that we're not battling on our own, and that we're all in this together, Serbs across the globe. So part of the reason we've been doing this leadership series is obviously to give the platforms for our representatives and connect with Ambassador Godfrey and others. But part of the reason is to connect with you guys, connect with who you are as people. And, part of the thing is we want to empower Serbs. We want to teach Serbs how to become successful. We want, as one individual rises, we all rise together. And so it's very important to do that. And part of the reason is we want to invite people like you, Madam President, to share with your experience. So if you can, on a little personal note, what are the 3 pieces of advice that you would say that you would give to young Serbian Americans, or more broadly, young Serbians across the globe, on how to become successful, how to become one day a president of Republika Srpska, or a CEO of, or just influential in general?
First, I would say, be good citizens of the countries you live in, but never forget or give up your origin. That would be my first piece of advice, I would say. Then again, try whenever possible and any possible way to improve the relations between the Republika Srpska and Serbia on one side and the country of your residence, for instance. That would be the second piece of advice. And also help us in dissipating these bad stereotypes and misinterpretations of what Republika Srpska or what Serbia is about, and help us really promote this real picture of us, and to help us explain what we really stand for. And I would say also, I'm very happy that you exist as an organization. It's very really nice talking to you. And when I hear all these nice messages and nice words, and the people who live abroad, who are part of us, but we do not live together, it's very important to know that you exist. It's very important to know that there are people who are interested in helping us. It's so important to know that there are people who care about us, who want to visit us, who want to learn from us, and also give us opportunity that we learn from them. So it's very important that we stick together.
I'm an emotional person. I'm very passionate. I'm very expressive, as you can tell. So I'm going to do my best to stay composed here. But I'm very grateful for those kind words. I know our organization is very grateful for those kind words. The Serbian American community is thankful for you for taking the time to be with us today. We've learned a lot about the work that you're doing, learned about Republika Srpska for those that may be second, third, fourth generation even that don't know about Republika Srpska. So I think it's important that we continue to have these discussions, we continue to facilitate relations, and we continue to work together to promote and the Serbia and the Serbian people to our rightful place as throughout history, as people who fight for liberty, who fight for the right and the side of truth and justice.
Thank you for your nice words. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for this conversation.
Yes, and we would like to thank you very much for being our guest and to thank our viewers for joining us today. And would like to advise our audience of the next Fireside Chats to be hosted by Serbian American Leadership Conference. On May 2nd, our guest will be Sava Janjić, abbot of Visoki Dečani Monastery. May 4th, Dr. Vladimir Marinković, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia and President of the Serbian American Friendship Congress. May 11th, His Excellency Bojan Vujić, Ambassador of Bosnia and Herzegovina to the United States. May 18th, Mr. Vuk Jeremić, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia, former President of the 67th session of the United Nations General Assembly, and current President of the People's Party in Serbia. Madam President, once again, thank you so much. It was great having you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.